For the judges, is the timer ready? Timer 15. We have a legal and moral obligation to protect people fleeing bombs, bullets, and tyrants. And throughout history, those people have enriched our society. Juliet Stevenson. Hello, my name is Jack Fleischer, and it is because I stand with that statement by Juliet Stevenson that my partners, Maureen Hancox and Jacob Shelton, and I are against the resolution which states the United States federal government should reform its policy for the vetting of refugees entering the United States. Now, let's move on to our harms. Observation 1, harms. Harm 1, refugees are in dangerous situations. To begin with, I would like to discuss how refugees are in dangerous situations and are fleeing their homes in hopes of a better, safer life. According to the UNHCR, or as they're more commonly referred to, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, quote, by the end of 2023, for the first time in recorded history, the number of people forcibly displaced is now over 122.6 million people. This amount of refugees shows no sign of slowing down, with an additional study of showing 120 million people also seeking refuge from danger or tyranny in their own country in 2024. And that's on the lower side, with the real number being estimated to be closer to 130 million people. So, that means, at a minimum, in the past 2 calendar years alone, there have been more than 242 million people seeking refuge status in whatever country would let them come in. In summary, every couple of years, hundreds of millions of people are just trying to find a safe, temporary place to live, and if the vetting process for entering this country were to become more difficult than it already is, or at least more complicated, it would leave millions of individuals and even families in danger of not finding a safe place to live, even though it's only temporary. Harm 2, people should be able to have access to better living conditions. In addition to what I've already stated, another reason the U.S. should not reform its vetting policy is because people should be able to have access to better living conditions. For an individual to gain refugee status in the United States, people can apply for asylum or be admitted through the Refugee Admissions Program. This information comes from USA.gov on September 26, 2024. Applying for asylum includes being physically present in the U.S. or at point of entry, file Form I-589, application for asylum and for withholding of removal within 1 year of arriving in the U.S., attend an interview with the USCIS, or the United Nations Citizenship and Immigration Services, and last but not least, if after all that whole process they are still eligible for asylum, they must remain in the U.S. for the entire time they intend on staying. And as for going through the Refugee Administration Program, its process is as follows. Any individual who intends on becoming a refugee or in the United States must do an interview with the United States Refugee Administration's Program, and then, once that has been completed, they must undergo a refugee status determination interview by the Department of Human Services and the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. I understand that what I just said may have sounded like a lot. That's because it is. The process to enter this country as a refugee for a temporary time is very extensive and takes a lot of time for someone just trying to flee for their safety, and maybe even their lives. And oftentimes, the safety and the lives of their family as well. So, increasing the difficulty of this process, like the affirmative team would like to be done, just puts more hardship in the path of these innocent people just trying to do their lives. Even though the affirmative team said they wanted refugees to come into this great nation. So, arguing against it seems a little illogical. In summary, these processes already take enough time and are complicated enough, and increasing the difficulty of this process just makes it infinitely harder for people just trying to seek refuge and safety to find it. Harm 3, refugees boost our economy. The last thing I would like to speak about, and this I will mention a bit more briefly, is that refugees significantly boost our economy. According to the Administrations for Children and Families.gov, quote, collectively, these groups, referring to refugees and asylees, have contributed a staggering $123.8 billion, more than they have cost the governmental expenditures. showcasing their economic benefit. This figure is split between a $31.5 billion net benefit to the federal government and approximate $92.3 billion boon in the state of local governments. This means that even though the government helps provide for these refugees getting started, they still end up contributing far more to this country than what has been given to them. And by greatly increasing the intensity of these vetting laws, the United States, there would be far less refugees and asylees being able to find safety and contribute to the economy. In summary, the harder it is for refugees to seek safety and find a new temporary place to live in the U.S., the less likely it is that there will be a significant boost to this nation's economy as a whole, as in previous years. Observation 2, plan. The affirmative team proposed that we change the status quo that the United States has held since the 1980s and has worked exceptionally well since then. And this sudden change would not only cause unexpected issues for refugees trying to escape to somewhere safe, but also for the U.S. government, which would then be dealing with the lack of as much financial growth as they had previously been given freely by refugees, and all of this as a result of changing the status quo. Additionally, the affirmative team plan has several disadvantages. None of their advantages will be as effective because their plan is completely inadequate. It's not going to greatly increase or decrease the crime rates. It's not going to help with human trafficking because their plan completely avoided that topic, even though that was one of their harms. And it's not going to help with integrations into the community. So, therefore, in conclusion, I have shown you that the resolution which states the United States federal government should reform its policy for the vetting of refugees entering the United States is false. And so for that reason, I ask you to take into consideration what I have said and vote for the resolution and for the affirmative team. Thank you. I'm now ready for Christ's name.